For months, the FBI was chasing one of the most elusive hackers in the world. He called himself Sabu, a name linked to breaches that embarrassed corporations and rattled secure systems. Then something strange happened. The attacks began to fail. Operations collapsed. Hackers across multiple countries started getting arrested, one after another. What changed? How did a group that once moved unseen suddenly begin to fall apart? The answer was not what anyone expected. The FBI had not simply stopped the hacker, they had turned him. But why would one of the most wanted hackers agree to help the very agency chasing him? And more importantly, how long had he been working from the inside before anyone realized the truth? Long before the name Sabu appeared in federal reports, Hector Monsegur was an anonymous figure moving quietly through underground networks. He was not formally trained, and he did not come from a traditional cybersecurity background. Like many early hackers, his skills were self-taught, built through long nights online, testing systems, and learning exactly where they broke. Over time, his confidence grew. So did his reputation. Monsegur became involved with Anonymous, the loose online collective known for digital protests and coordinated cyber actions. Inside that environment, he stood out quickly. He was decisive, technically sharp, and willing to take risks others avoided. Under the alias Sabu, he began attracting attention inside private chat rooms where small groups discussed targets and vulnerabilities. Trust in those spaces was rare, yet somehow, Sabu earned it. In 2011, a smaller and more focused group emerged from within Anonymous. They called themselves Lulz Security, LulzSec. Unlike the larger collective, this was a tight operational circle built for speed and precision, and at the center of many discussions was Sabu. As LulzSec gained momentum, their confidence grew. Each successful breach strengthened their image and increased their visibility. But visibility came with a cost. With every operation, investigators were collecting fragments, small technical traces that meant little on their own. But together, they were starting to form a pattern. And somewhere inside that pattern, the identity behind Sabu was slowly coming into focus. In mid-2011, LulzSec accelerated into what would later be described as a short but intense cyber campaign. Over roughly 50 days, the group carried out a series of intrusions that drew global attention and raised serious concerns about digital security. Their targets were not random. They focused on organizations that symbolized authority and control in the digital world. One of the earliest high-profile incidents involved Sony Pictures. Internal data was accessed and exposed, highlighting weaknesses inside a major corporate network. Soon after, the group disrupted the public website of the Central Intelligence Agency, a move that triggered headlines and quiet alarm inside security agencies. Not long after that, data connected to the United States Senate was accessed and released. The message was becoming clear. No institution appeared completely protected. Each operation followed a familiar pattern: a vulnerability identified, exploited, then publicly revealed. To supporters, the group framed their actions as exposure rather than destruction. But behind the scenes, investigators were noticing something important. The traces weren't disappearing as cleanly as before. Network traffic, timestamps, server interactions. Individually, they meant very little. But together, they were pointing in one direction. Quietly, analysts began narrowing their focus. LulzSec still appeared confident on the surface, still communicating, still operating, still moving as if nothing had changed. But behind the scenes, the investigation was finally gaining traction. For weeks, investigators studied the digital evidence left behind after each intrusion. Most of it was routed through layers of anonymity. But anonymity in cyber operations is rarely perfect. Sometimes, all it takes is one mistake. In Sabu's case, that mistake came during a brief moment when his real internet connection was not fully concealed. It was small, almost invisible, but it was enough. Analysts traced the connection to New York City. From there, the search narrowed to a specific residential building. Surveillance soon confirmed activity consistent with the online presence of the figure known as Sabu. By June 2011, federal agents were no longer chasing a ghost. They had a location, an identity, and a decision to make. When Hector Monsegur was confronted, the case took an unexpected turn. There was no immediate public arrest announcement, no sudden disappearance into the prison system. Instead, something far more strategic happened. Investigators understood his position inside Lulzsec. Removing him would stop his activity, but it would also blind the investigation. Keeping him active could expose the entire network. Faced with serious charges and the possibility of decades in prison, Monsegur was given a choice: remain silent and face the full weight of prosecution, or cooperate and continue operating online under federal supervision. The decision he made would quietly change the future of Lulzsec. From that moment forward, Sabu did not disappear from the internet. To the outside world, nothing had changed. Inside the investigation, everything had. After agreeing to cooperate, Hector Monsegur returned online under close federal supervision. Publicly, he remained Sabu, the same central figure inside Lulzsec. Privately, every move was being monitored. Conversations that once belonged only to the group were now visible to investigators in real time. Operating in this dual role required precision. One wrong move could expose everything. But inside the group, suspicion did not immediately fall on him, and that gave investigators time. Gradually, arrests began occurring across multiple countries, often without warning. From the outside, the pattern was confusing. But from the inside, the structure of Lulzsec was already starting to weaken. Trust, once the group's strongest protection, was beginning to erode. For months, the wider hacking community saw only fragments of what was happening. Arrests continued, operations failed, and the once active presence of Lulzsec grew quieter. Then the truth surfaced in official court documents. Hector Monsegur, Sabu, had been cooperating with federal authorities during the final phase of the investigation. The reaction was immediate. Shock spread across online communities. By the time this became public, the damage was already done. Key members had been detained. Communication channels had gone silent. Lulzsec had not collapsed from the outside. It had unraveled from within. When the case moved through the legal system, the full extent of Monsegur's cooperation became clear. His assistance helped investigators identify multiple individuals connected to Lulzsec and related hacking circles. Because of that cooperation, he did not receive the decades-long sentence many expected. Instead, his penalty was significantly reduced. For investigators, the case became a blueprint. It proved that in cyber operations, direct force is not always the most effective weapon. Sometimes controlled access from the inside can achieve far more. For underground networks, however, the lesson was far more unsettling. Anonymity did not guarantee safety. Encryption did not guarantee trust. Because in the end, Lulzsec wasn't destroyed by the FBI breaking in. It collapsed because they were already inside.